Good morning. I'm Kevin Harrington from the Friedens Church Council, and I'd like to talk to you today on behalf of the Council about a process we've been involved in to identify the things that are important to us as a church family and a congregation. We've been working in accordance with a business model that's been very successful in helping companies and possibly churches to identify their strengths and develop those in such a way that they can reach out beyond their own walls. The value I'd like to talk to you about today is our willingness and the importance to us of changing and improving ourselves. In order to identify an area that you may have seen change or improvement, I'd like to talk about a personal experience, and it involves my experience on the church council. About 2 years ago, several new members joined our church council, and one of those members was Sydney Berry. As you probably know, Sydney is and has been the youngest member of our church council. And like most council members, when she joined, she tended to hold back a little bit, watch the process, observe, and wait until she became a little more comfortable. Now, she's been our liaison to the youth committee, and she's been very good on reporting out the progress and status of things that the youth are working on, but she's been a little slow to engage in other topics. But when we broached the topic of the business model and working on that, Sydney engaged in a great way. Her observations were often well thought out and important to us, and she really brought some important ideas and things to the process we were working on. So Sydney really is a good example of how we are willing to improve ourselves and willing to change how we may feel in order to improve. Now, what did Jesus say about this? Well, I went to the Sermon on the Mount because there's an important topic that Jesus talks about in his sermon in the 7th chapter of Matthew. Jesus talks about the paths that we might take in our lives. And he talks about going through the wide gate or taking the wide path. Now, this is the easy path to take. There are very few challenges, and many people take this path. That's why it's wide. But he warns us that this is the path to destruction. He encourages us to enter through the wide gate, through the narrow gate. Take the narrow path. It's a harder path. It's filled with challenges. But in order to follow him, this is the path to salvation and eternal life. In one translation of the Bible, Jesus even says some people don't find the narrow path. And that's the challenge for us. We need to find that path. And we need to be constantly changing and improving ourselves in order to get there. And not only ourselves, but our fellow Christians and those who may be seeking a way. We can help them find it as well. Now, you've heard us talk about a mission that is loving others by living the gospel. And that's an important part of where we see ourselves in identifying our values. The more we can live out what Jesus taught us, live the gospel, we can show our love not only for our own church family, but for people in the world around us. So I encourage you to think about the values that we're talking about. Make sure that they're values that you embrace, and join us as we seek to love others by living the gospel. Thank you for listening.